Welcome, welcome. Hello, everyone. How are you? So tonight is going to be very special because this session is led by our youth leaders. So I'm just going to do the introduction and then I'm going to hand it over to our amazing speakers for tonight. So my name is Alethia O'Hara Stephenson, the president and founder of Dufferin County Canadian Black Association. Joining us for this amazing session tonight, we have Amoy Stephenson, who is in her final year at Nipissing University. Amoy is also a graduate of St. Dufferin District High School here in Shelburne. We also have Graydon Grandison, who is at the University of Guelph, and he is going into his third year. Correct me if I am wrong, Graydon. Graydon is studying biomedical science. Amoy is studying biology with a minor in chemistry and English. And finally, but not least, we have Damore McQueen, who is a political science student at York University. And I believe, Damore, you're going into your second year. So we have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experts here tonight. So my hope is that you will sit back, relax, enjoy, ask all the questions you have of these amazing leaders, because they're here to help you transition from high school to university, or even if you're going into your second, your third, or your final year. These leaders have the wealth of experience to be able to guide you throughout your journey. So I'm always going to focus more on the transition, what to bring for a university, some of the social aspects around just transitioning and building rapport in the school. Damore will come in at the end and talk about some study tips. And of course, Graydon will focus on networking and how to make the best of your university life. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to hand it over right now to Amoy Stephenson. Amoy, take it away.
Hi guys, so my name is Amoy. This is my 5th year at Nipissing University. My minor is chemistry and English and my major is biology. I've been a part of my school throughout my whole entire year, basically. From my very first year to my 5th year, I've been a part of my school. I've been involved with residents, I've been on council, I'm with a sorority, I'm with recruitment and executives for the mentors for the international students. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me because I will probably be able to answer your questions. So getting right into it, when you get your acceptance letter for your universities or your colleges, when you accept it, it's a big happy day, everyone's partying, everyone's celebrating you and all your achievements. You will fill out your roommate application saying all about you, like what you are as a student, if you like loud music, if you like no music at all, if you like country, if you like, I don't know, old school rock and roll, all those great questions that you would want to know about your other roommates. You fill out all this great stuff about yourself, and your school will probably send you your roommate's information. They usually only send their school emails just for privacy's sake. So if you're ever concerned about someone else having your personal, your email, your personal information, they'll probably only sharing your school email, your school identification. That way you and your roommates, if you'd want to talk off of email, off of your school emails, you have that opportunity to give them your social media if you'd like, or if you just want to see your roommates and what they're going to look like before you even get into your roommate house or your shared spaces. What I usually say to bring for residents is obviously bring whatever you're going to miss besides your dog. You can't bring pets in unless it is a registered therapy animal or an animal that you need for support, whether it be a medical alert dog or a service animal, something like that is allowed, but you can't bring like your pet iguana because you're just gonna miss your pet iguana, or your pet cat just because you're gonna miss your pet cat. Bring something like, if you have a favorite like stuffed animal, bring a stuffed animal. If you have a favorite blanket, bring your favorite blanket. Bring things that you think you might enjoy. So like if you enjoy like movies, like old DVDs, bring a DVD player. Most rooms will not come with a TV, so you will need to bring your own TV. But most rooms will come with a dresser, so you can put your own clothes in Some rooms will have underbed storage, some won't, so it depends on the layout of your room. Most will have closets. Depending on which university or college you go to, some closets may be located in the actual bedroom. Some will be a shared bedroom, so you'd have to talk to your roommate which side of the closet you would like to have. Some closets don't actually come with clothing hangers, so you will need to bring that yourself. Regarding laundry for the clothing, some universities have coin operated laundry rooms, so you will need to bring like coins. Maybe it might be $2.50. That's what it is at my university. We also do have these refillable cards that you can also fill up with change. That's how we also do laundry up at my school. We just tap our card and that's how we do laundry. It's $1.50 to wash and $1.50 to dry at my school. I don't know how it is at other universities or colleges, but that's how it is for me. There are a limited amount of laundries and washing machines and dryers. So if you know you're gonna stack up all your laundry for the end of the month, just make sure you're doing it at a good time. Mostly Saturdays and Sundays are really busy times for you to be doing laundry. So I always say, do it at least maybe on like a Friday after class or like right before you go to bed, just throwing your stuff in the wash. And then most times you can leave your laundry overnight because no one's gonna take your laundry. But if you have like a very expensive shirt, I wouldn't say to leave it in the laundry overnight. Back to like your room, I would always say fill out a roommate agreement form. So at my school, we do have this thing called a roommate agreement where you and your other roommates sign basically an agreement or a promise to each other saying that if something breaks in the house, if something is damaged, if something goes wrong, we're going to talk to each other about it. We're not going to go tell Jim, Carrie, or Vanessa Stewart down the hall that, oh, my roommate broke this and I'm so mad at her. You always fill out a roommate agreement. That means if something happens, you guys are discussing what would the problem would be? How would you want it to be resolved? Whether you want to be texted, emailed, in person, you want to resolve that conflict. If you can't resolve it with your roommates, how you want to escalate it. If you want to bring in a third party, if you want to bring in a Don, who is basically on the floor supervisor, who takes care of all the students, making sure that everything's okay, there is no problems that are arising. And then the resolution. So if there is a resolution, how's it going to work out? So if something happens where it's extremely toxic for you as a student and you can't work there, you can't live in your room, you can't work in your room, you need somewhere to go, resolution is, A, do you have a plan B? If this doesn't work out, are you able to find another place to live in your residence? Will you be going back home? Will you ask your parents to provide some other place for you to live for a couple of days while things cool off? Some universities will have extra spare rooms if you do need to move to a different room. Some will have a completely different dorm or a different residence for you to move to if you guys can't come to a resolution. But I would say talk to your roommates first, see how they are, go through the steps of a roommate agreement, agree on when dishes are going to be clean, when the house is going to be cleaned, if you're mopping, if you're sweeping, who's taking out the garbage, how loud do you like your music, stuff like that, because you don't want things creeping up on you during like midterms and exams when your roommates are playing really loud music and you're just trying to study and there's like, oh, well, we didn't talk about this. You said I was fine to play music till 4 o'clock in the morning. Why are you changing it now? So just make sure you write that down to the agreement saying during midterms, during exams, no music after 12 o'clock, because you need to study. You need that time for you to study, focus on your education. When it comes to chores, there are no set chore lists. If you have roommates, your roommate probably isn't going to be up to your standards sometimes, and that's okay. With the roommate agreement, once you fill it out, you shouldn't have any problems with cleaning and chores. If you say garbage taken out every Tuesday, it's in the roommate agreement. If your roommate does not follow that agreement, you can escalate it to Dawn, to a supervisor, to the house mom, whoever it needs to be. Upgrade it. It's not your problem. Let someone else take care of it, because if you guys can't communicate and you're not following the rules, you have somebody there to escalate it and talk to the other person for you, or you guys can resolve it by yourselves. Some universities don't come with recycling bins. So like one for cardboard, one for cans. You might need to get that yourself. My university didn't, but we are able to rent some out. Some universities will allow you to have a deep freezer in your room. Some will not. Some allow you to have a mini fridge. Most will. It depends on how big the mini fridge is. So you will need to get the height and width and the diameter for your mini fridge. Some universities and colleges will not let you have portable heaters due to short circuiting of the circuits. So make sure you look at that before winter, which is happened to me a lot. My last year, I bought my own portable heater and it kept short circuiting the breaker, so I couldn't have it, especially during the winter time when everything's connected to one main panel. It doesn't help anybody. Another thing to bring is make sure you know how big your bed is. Some beds will just say it's a twin bed, and it actually might be a twin bed extra large, because there are some 6-foot athletes that do use the residence sometimes. They do end up using the extra long mattresses, and sometimes residents doesn't switch out the mattress to a regular twin bed. So always make sure you're looking at how big your bed is. Does anyone have any questions so far about anything I've said? I'm going through this really fast. I'm so sorry. No questions? Okay. I might seem all over the place because I'm just going through like a checklist of what I usually think of when I move back into residence. So if you have any like specific questions, please feel free to interrupt me. That is completely okay. I will not be offended by any means. What else is there for school? For school, there is things called like Frosh Week and Orientation Week. Those are optional. If you want to join it, I would suggest you join it. I had a lot of fun being a Frosh leader and a Froshie. So I always say, please do that. Or it's called Orientation Week, where you can meet your professors. I also say to go meet them. If you have a chance to meet your professors, always ask them if they can record their lectures or if you can record your lectures. Just in case one day you get really sick and you can't come to their class, ask them to record their lectures. Or if you just see them, just build up that good rapport. Just ask them questions, ask them what their classes are going to be like during that orientation week. Because just you initiating that conversation with them will be like, okay, this student seems really interested in me, really interested in my class, and they'll want to continue to look out for you in class. So I always say, please go to orientation, please go to Frosh. It may cost a little extra, but I will promise you, you will not regret like the people that you'll meet, the friends that you'll make, and the memories you'll have during Frosh and orientation week. Anybody have any questions about Frosh or orientation week specifically? Nope, that's okay. Last thing I can think of for residents specifically, if you are bringing up a car, prices will range depending on parking space, capacity, and where it's located to the school. Also, you will need a parking pass. So you need to remember if it's going to be for a full year or for a semester. So for me specifically, I always buy a full year parking pass with a backup. Where it's like if ever my parking spots or parking space gets full, I have a backup parking lot which I can use. If you buy the one just for the semester, you will have to buy another one for another semester if you wanted to switch parking lots. They do, again, range differently depending on where you choose your parking space. Your also parking space is not guaranteed. So even if you want parking lot A and you paid for parking lot A, you will not always guarantee you'll have a spot in parking lot A. So that's why you would have to have a backup just in case one is always full. Another thing about residents is you will always have a Don, a supervisor, or a house mom or a house dad on your floor. There are mostly they have their CPR, first aid, they have Narcan training, they have suicide awareness training, they have depression helplines. Like they are registered in almost anything you think you might need for your years in residence. If you have any questions, they're there for you as a student and also as somebody to talk to if you need to. They're not therapists, but they can refer you to a therapist, and your schools should have a therapist there on site if you do need to talk to somebody. If there is nobody on site for you to talk to and you are really upset over something, they can show you to a request helpline. The Dons do have emergency numbers for that as well. They also do have Dons that walk around your campus 24/7 throughout the day. So if there's anything happening and you need to get a hold of somebody quickly, they will always have a phone on them. You always call the direct phone line and they'll come to your room, come to wherever you are. And if they need to call the ambulance or if you need Narcan, they always have it on hand, and they always have somebody who is CPR first aid trained to come to you if you have any medical emergencies. Does anybody have any questions about that? Does anybody have any questions about residents? It's okay. Does anybody have any questions about your move-in days, what to expect on your move-in days? No? Okay. Um, yes. Jay's iPad can go first.
For move-in days, do you have like a time slot? Like, or can you take all the time you want to move in?
For move-in days, you are specifically designated a slot because that's when they'll pull out your information sheet and your sign-up sheet. So you should come on your designated time slot. You usually will only have an hour to move in, only because there's a lot of traffic and there is parking spaces that are limited. I would say take everything out of your car, everything out of your move out van, your U-Haul, move it as quickly as you can upstairs, and then go find parking somewhere else. Because the parking you have for your move-in slot is only for that hour. That's where they say only unpack between that hour if you're going to use that parking spot. If not, as long as you move your car out of the designated unloading zone within like your hour, you should be fine to have your personal support people up there in your room helping you unload and decorate your room.
Okay, thank you.
My
Yep,
pleasure.
thanks.
Alethia, may I have your question, please?
I just wanted to know a little bit more about your meal plans and what it's like there.
So each school will have their own meal plan. Each college, university will have their own meal plan. Some will say it's mandatory to have a meal plan. Some will say it is not. For my school specifically, you will not require a meal plan to have a meal at Nipissing University. This is because we do have a fully furnished kitchen in all of our residences, so it's not mandatory for you to have a meal plan. Also because the school is not open from Monday to Friday, it's open Saturday, Sunday, it is not. So we also say, if you are going to be getting a meal plan, just know you'll have to be making your own dinners on the Saturdays, Sundays, and breakfast and lunches as well. If you do want a meal plan, it is optional. It's a minimum of $25 for my university. You put it on your student ID card, and your student ID card is your meal card for the rest of the semester. Once you get a new card, ID card, that is when you get a new plan, and the money just transfers from your old ID card to your new ID card. You can fill it up with however much money you want. You just have to use it before you graduate. Once you graduate, you can no longer use that meal card. So if you graduate and there's still $500 on your meal card, you cannot get that money back. Once it's on your student ID card as a meal plan, that is it. You can't take it out. You can't transfer it to like a bus pass. You can't transfer it to your health insurance for the school. It's strictly just for the meal plan. Some meal plans are designated for certain areas. So some meal plans you can only use from cafeteria A instead of cafeteria B and C, which has like the great food on Thursdays. You can't transfer it. So I would always look at where you're able to use your meal plans, how much money you can load on it, and if it's transferable to your different years, because some universities may act different from mine, but from my knowledge, it should be able to transfer from year to year as long as you're not graduating. Quick answer?
Perfect. There is a similar question in the chat. Is there a cafeteria responsible for feeding the students, or is that a personal responsibility?
The cafeteria is responsible for feeding the students if there is a cafeteria and during their time. So it's not free, of course. As long as you pay for the meal plan, it is kind of free, but you have to pay the meal plan for you to have food, and the cafeteria has to be open for you to have food. So if that cafeteria closes at 12 o'clock and you're hungry, the cafeteria is closed. They can't give you food after closing time. Some universities will have a hard stop at 9 o'clock. That means everything's off the shelf, 9 o'clock, no food is being served. So it is your responsibility as a student to know what time the cafeteria opens and closes, what days it is open and what days it's not open, because during holidays, cafeterias aren't open. When the school isn't open, the cafeteria is not going to be open. So any day, like during the school semester that is a holiday, you will not have a meal basically. So you're gonna have to be ordering out, skip the dishes, DoorDash, whatever you have, that's probably gonna be your best bet. But most universities and colleges are near some sort of like local like Subway, Tim Hortons, or Wendy's. So if worst case scenario, it is a student's responsibility to go walk down the street and buy something to eat. I hope that answers your question. If not, please send another chat specifically. So next person I'm going to introduce is Gordon. Gordon, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yep, I can hear you.
Hi. As you know, my name is Graydon. I'm going to be running you through some of the volunteered and connect on campus type bits. I think the first thing I'm going to say is that university is a place where even if you haven't found your tribe yet, up until that point, you definitely will. I started during COVID, so a lot of clubs got shut down, but even I was able to find a club that was able to be a part of and connect with people, even though I was 5 feet away from my bed. So there's a lot to get connected to and a lot of people there to be connected with. And it's always interesting what you'll find that other people have commonalities with others. I'm personally connected with the Power to Change group on my campus. It's a Christian organization that runs primarily through youth and meetings on campus and some evangelistic events here and there. And even through that, I was able to meet TAs from some of my classes that I wouldn't have known otherwise, or even other students in my class I can connect with during lectures. So while clubs might not initially be the first thing you think of when you're going to university, I would say they're definitely a good way to get connected just overall and just start networking. That's the first place that you start is through your interests. That's the best place to get to know other people and to get them connected with you so they can help you out in the future. Next, I would say that after that would be your teachers and your university are probably the next best resource because they're there to help you. They're here to get you connected with other people, to get connected to opportunities and things. That's their job is to help you move forward in your career or with your dreams. That's what they're there for. So email is your best friend. I'm running a summer camp right now, and a bunch of my counselors are in high school or graduating from high school, and it has been a lot to get them to check their emails so they know what's going on the next day. I can tell you that your email is your friend when connecting because that's just how the world is, even though you don't really experience it that much in high school these days. Email is super important to get that information from others and to get your information out to others. It's the primary source of communication. That's why you're provided with the school email when you attend the university. And then the second thing would be that when you go to lectures, your teachers are there to help you after class. So if you feel there's any problems or if there's anything you find interesting about it, talk to them. That's the best way that I've seen people get opportunities is just talking to them. Your teachers are people too. And even more so that when you went to high school and they were sort of the person above you, this is the person actively teaching you and trying to make you grow by giving you information that they know and that they want to share with other people. So talking to them is the absolute best way to get to help let them know you so that they can actually help you in your goal. Any questions? And I'm going a little fast. I just want to slow down, see if anyone's...
I have a question, Graydon. I know you recently had an opportunity to travel to South America as part of a school group, I believe. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and how that opportunity came up?
Okay, yeah. It was actually super spontaneous. On one of my course websites, our teacher just posted this opportunity to connect with VITA, which is an international volunteer program that deals with medical clinics, dental clinics, veterinary clinics in South America. And it was just something they posted near the end of the semester just to be out there because I guess that's something he's connected to and wanted to share. And so it was just through that organization, you just sign up and you connect with people on your campus and around your campus, other campuses in your area. And then it's an international trip to another organization. And it was an amazing experience, in my opinion. It was something that you don't really get to experience as much here in sort of the northern Western context. There's no one to really let you work on other people in the same way that you might be able to do in other places where they're less fortunate. And to be able to help them and gain experience at the same time is amazing. That was something that I wouldn't have known if I didn't just go for it, which is the big thing about university. You have to make sure that when the opportunity appears, you need to do it. No one's going to push you to do it. No one's going to say, hey, do this. you have to make sure that you take that opportunity and you do it yourself.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. I know Auntie Plummy, I think, wanted to ask a question, but I have one last question for you, Graydon. For someone who is shy, what advice would you give to them to get out of their comfort zone and start to really explore university life?
That question probably can answer at an expert level because I myself am like a massive introvert. Like, COVID was not that tough for me because I wasn't doing much outside of that. So I would say that the best thing to start getting out of your shell is just do the things you like with other people. Like, I play this card game that's been around for a while, Magic the Gathering. Whether you know it or not, that's fine. But it's just that's something that I picked up a while ago as a kid, and just I've kept it along. And like, I really had anybody to connect with that. And then I got to university, and there was a Magic the Gathering club. So it's like, it's the best way to connect with people when you're an introvert is just find something that you love, and find the people who also love it.
Awesome. Great answer. Thank you. Auntie Plummy, did you have questions? I know you were trying to chime in earlier.
Right? I guess if there's no questions.
I have a question.
Right.
So
Fire.
for you, did you participate in Frosh or Orientation Week? And if you did, how did that help you? If not, would you have gone back and actually participated in Frosh and Orientation Week if you had a chance?
I did participate, but to a lesser extent because I got to university late. So I only got to participate in a few of the end events. But that allowed me to connect with my TA, which really helped me in figuring out where everything was on campus. Because even though you only need to know where a few places are, it's usually a big campus. So knowing where everything is helpful.
And can you explain to us what a TA is?
So a TA is a teaching assistant. They're put in, they're to help extend on what your professor is talking to you about. Usually they'll be the ones actually grading your assignments throughout the year. So having a good connection with them is pretty good because they're the people giving you your marks. So up until the finals, that's usually the professor. So yeah.
Actually, Amoy, I'm going to throw this question back to you. I know you've had the opportunity to participate in Frosh. Can you speak to the students about the benefits of participating?
Benefits for Frosh. So I was a Froshing my first year, and I wouldn't say I was a shy person, but I do have a hard time connecting with other students, I felt like in my first year. And Frosh and Orientation Week gave me that ability to come out of my comfort zone a lot and connect and communicate with my other Froshies and my group. So every year for Frosh Orientation Week, you do get like a theme. And so my theme that year was Disney. And so I was Hakuna Mafrasha, Lion King, Hakuna Matata. I know it's cheesy. And so we all got like matching t-shirts. And every event that we had, so each day is a different event, me and my teammates were forced to communicate, forced to hang out, and forced to be put in really random situations that got us talking and laughing. And it really put me in an uncomfortable situation, but we have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because you're going to be with these people for a whole entire week. They're going to know your weirdness. They're going to know your quirkiness. They're going to know everything about you. So they're not going to see you as that weird shy kid anymore. They're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that you chugged a whole bottle of water in under 30 seconds. Like they'll know like the cool facts about you that you would have never even told them about yourself. So I would highly recommend going to Frosh. And as a Frosh mentor, as an executive for Frosh, my third year, I always say, do something that you're uncomfortable with and always bring somebody along with you. Because you may feel uncomfortable, but if you have a friend or you think you might be good friends with somebody else, drag them along with you. And that experience of you guys both being comfortable together will create a bond that you will probably never forget for your rest of your years at university. So I would say do Frosh, do orientation week, and get involved with as many things as you possibly can because you will make great memories that way. Yeah. Does anyone have any more questions for me or Graydon? No, that is completely okay. So next we're going to introduce Damar McQueen. If you want to tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Amoy. So I'm Damar McQueen. I'm going into my second year. I'm studying political science at York University. And today I will be going over a few study tips, just 5 study tips. I know that studying for most, if not all of us, can be a bit challenging and a bit tiring. But lucky for you today, there are some key concepts or some key tips that can help you in the process. So in no particular order, we're going to delve into those 5 tips. And of course, you can ask your questions as we go along. So this first tip, I must admit that it is an area that I personally need to improve on. But nevertheless, let us delve into it. So firstly, review contents the same day or a day after they have been taught. This is important because as soon as those concepts would have been taught, they are fresh in your heads. So it is you're better able to basically it limits your ability to have to relearn the concept because it's fresh, right? So it would be best to review those concepts immediately before you forget them. In addition to that, it is an opportunity for you to do additional research. As you'd imagine in the university concepts, in university, you're being introduced to new concepts, right? So you will have to do a lot of research. So this is an opportunity right here for you to do that additional research to gain further clarity. Also, reviewing should be an ongoing process because again, remember that you're trying to remember sometimes new concepts. And so reviewing should be an ongoing process in order to reinforce the information that you would have learned. So again, review contents the same day or a day after they have been taught. This is so very important in ensuring that the concepts are reinforced. So as soon as you're able to, just get at it and review those concepts. So this one I love personally. So this one is do what I call active studying. So active studying is basically you engaging with the different concepts that you would have learned and making studying more interactive. So active studying could mean you teaching your siblings a concept that was taught in class. Of course, they might not understand or even remember the concept, but in you teaching them the concept, you're reinforcing the concept and you're remembering it. So that is a part of what I call active studying. Active studying could also include, I know that this is going to sound a bit ridiculous, but active studying could also include teaching the television a new concept, teaching your bed a new concept, teaching the wall a new concept. Because once again, in the process of teaching these different instruments and furnitures, the concept, you're again reinforcing the concept. So, and you're making it fun and interactive, right? So practice, it is called active studying. Also, a part of active studying, I'd say, is applying concepts learned to real life experiences. Personally, this is something that I've been doing as a political science major. I believe that it has allowed me to see the world in a new way. It has given me a new perspective. For example, here in Canada recently, there was somewhat of an uprising. There was a protest in Ottawa, and I remember the police force coming out, arresting some persons and so on. And I remember just sitting there watching the news, and in my little political brain, I'm thinking about the use of power. I'm thinking about power versus authority. So I'm not sure if you're noticing, but right there, I'm linking concepts learned in class to real life experiences. So that is something that I would definitely suggest. I think that it makes studying fun and interactive. And in fact, studying should be fun and interactive. So practice active studying. And of course, if your area is biology, if your area is psychology, put on that analytical lens. You know, watch news, watch the TV, use your concepts being learned in class to analyze whatever is in front of you. Because once again, in doing so, you're reinforcing the concepts and you're remembering the concepts. So once again, put on your academic lenses and analyze your world. This reinforces the concepts, as I would have said before. So once again, practice active studying, make it fun and interactive. Thirdly, do your readings prior to lectures and tutorials. So I know that Braden actually made mention of what a tutorial is, but for again, let me just reinforce for those who might not be familiar with, say, the Canadian system, education system. So in university, we usually, for the most part, you have what is called a lecture and you have what is called a tutorial. So the lecture is essentially a bigger, let me say, gathering of students from different tutorials. Now the tutorials are smaller in comparison to the lectures. So in the tutorials, that is where your TAs, teaching assistants, will basically, you know, grade your assignments, have interactive sessions, discuss the different topics and so on. So do your readings prior to entering these rooms so that you're better equipped to participate and to interact, you know, in the process of learning and growing. So yeah, that's, and in addition to that, for some courses, you will have what is called pre-recorded lectures. So these are lectures, as the name suggests, that would have been recorded before. So watch those pre-recorded lectures and again, go into those rooms equipped and ready to participate and to gain your tutorial marks. Because believe it or not, in university, you're actually graded based on your participation in your tutorials, right? So if it is that you do not know your concept, then how is it that you would be equipped and ready to actually participate in order to gain those marks? So again, listen. So again, listen to your TAs, interact in the different sessions, do your readings prior to attending these tutorials and lectures, because this allows for a greater, more in-depth understanding of the different concepts. And again, it helps in increasing your participation marks. So my fourth point is to take your own notes. Do not rely on others. I know that some persons will do this in university, but I'd suggest that you do not be you're not one of those persons to actually do that. Take your own notes, whether that be digitally, whether that be taking it in your notebook, but just take your own notes. Because personally, I've had situations where I've gone into tutorials and that your TA will randomly call on you to participate or ask a question, and you know you have to be equipped and ready to answer in order to gain those tutorial marks. recently before school ended, I remember I'd attended an in-person lecture. For some persons, the lecture was actually online as well. So some persons went in person while some opted to stay home and log on. But on that specific day, there was some connection issue. And so some persons did not get to connect to the lecture. And what happened was that I had to basically present to the entire class, go over the concepts that were taught in the lecture, right? So again, take your own notes so that you're better equipped and ready to participate and to interact in the different sessions. So again, you could be called on anytime, and remember, you're trying to get those tutorial marks, so be prepared. And finally, ask questions to gain clarity. You have to remember that university can sometimes be really expensive. And so if you have a question to ask, never forget that you're paying your fees and you have a right to gain clarity and you have a right to ask your questions. Of course, some persons might prefer to not speak in a class or to ask their questions in a class in a more open setting. So of course, you could speak to your tutorial leader afterwards. You could speak to your lecturer afterwards, but gain the relevant information that you need to gain. Remember that you're paying those fees and you have a right to ask your questions and you have a right to be heard. And believe me, your lecturers and your TAs, they will be polite and they'll help you along the process. So just ask your questions. Don't be intimidated. I know that it can be intimidated, especially when you're surrounded by people from literally all over the world. But ask your questions. There are also what some universities call office hours. So this is where you can meet one-on-one with your TA, or you can meet one-on-one with your lecturer to ask the relevant questions that you might have. But always seize the opportunity to ask your questions and to gain clarity. So visit those office hours, ask your peer mentors. Some universities have peer mentors, so you could ask them questions as well. They could direct you to the relevant persons. And also ask upper year students in your doing your major. I know that both speakers, I believe, made mention of networking. That's very important. So connect. So if it is that connecting means going to orientation, whatever that means, connect with persons from the different within your major, so that if any questions come up, you have the opportunity to ask and to gain clarity. So again, so from the top, so review contents the same day or a day after they have been taught. Secondly, do active studying, make studying interactive and fun. Thirdly, do readings prior to lectures and tutorials. My fourth point, take your own notes. Do not rely on others. You can be called on at any time, and remember those tutorial marks. And my final point, ask questions to gain clarity. Don't be intimidated. That's it from me.
Thank you, Timur. Does anybody have any questions for him? No? Okay. Thank you very much to all of our speakers today. I'm just going to go over some more things that I think would be relevant to students going into their first year or any year of university.
Good evening.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry for asking this question so late, but Sudamore, do you have any upperclassmen as in during the same major as you in your dorm, or does that help with meeting with them when you're in your dorm room or close in proximity like that? I can have those type of engagements and meetings.
Definitely. So I'm not living on campus, but so not in terms of dorm, but I do have those persons. I remember my very first orientation session, I was introduced to someone in my major, and I must say that to this day, that person has been really instrumental in helping me understand the different concepts, in guiding me along the process. You know, I could have the most ridiculous questions, and I could just go ahead and ask that person, and you know, in a matter of seconds, I get a response. So again, remember, I was introduced to that person in orientation, my very first day, but that person has been very instrumental. So once again, build your network. Yeah.
I would like to add on to that. Some universities, the residents, they will try and pair you up with people in the same major as you, so you guys can do group studying in the same house. Also, so you guys have like the same schedule, so no one's coming in at odd hours of the day where you guys are studying or doing your placements or just doing essays. They will try and keep as many of you guys together. If not, they will try and keep as many of you guys on the same floor. For my school, we do have all the education students, so people that want to be teachers, they all stay on one floor. People that are in like the sciences, like biology, psychology, geology, nursing, we're all on the same floor. So they do try to structure it that way if you don't have roommates that are the same as you, or like in like the same field as you. Does anybody else have any
Okay,
questions?
that's good to know. Thank you.
So if you guys don't have any more questions, I'm just gonna go over some other things that I think would be helpful for a lot of incoming students. For example, move-in days, be conscious of how heavy your items are. If you have a really heavy bag that your dad cannot carry up 3 flights of stairs, you should probably reduce the load, because some colleges, residences, or university residents do not always have elevators, or they are always being used and there's a long lineup. And if you only have an hour time slot, if you're gonna spend 30 minutes waiting for an elevator, it just makes more sense to have a lighter load and just walk up the extra 2 flights of stairs, just so you have enough time to unload your car. On the day of your sign-in, you will need your ID for all of your visitors, all of your people helping you move into your residence. You yourself need to have some sort of ID. They don't take health cards, so you will need like a driver's license or the interior identification card. You, your parents, your uncle, your dad, your brother, they all need to have something. Some schools require you have to be the age of 18 to help you move in, just so they aren't liable for any injuries for anyone under the age of 18. So just make sure with your residents, you are allowed to have like your little sister or your nephew or your daughter come with helping you move in. For the sake of visitors, once you move in, you are a student of the university. As soon as you accept that acceptance letter, you only have certain days you're allowed to have visitors in with you for your duration at your college or university. So only set days you can't have visitors. That means during midterms, during exams, for the whole month of exams, actually, for December, you aren't allowed to have any type of visitors. So just keep that in mind. Until it is your move out day, you can't have anybody in your residence coming in or out. And after you move in, you have to only have your visitors, like your mom or your dad, come on the weekends or specific days and times. So if your mom and dad want to come up on a Monday, they have to come in between times that the residence front desk is open, and they have to bring their ID just so the residence knows who's coming in and out, and to account people who are in the residence, just in case there is an emergency like a fire, they can account for everybody that is there. If you do have a visitor and they come into your room and they break something, you are liable for that visitor. You and your roommates are technically liable for that roommate, for the visitor that you do have. You're responsible if your person walks up the flight of stairs and breaks a railing, you yourself are responsible. But if something breaks inside your roommate house or your roommate living quarters, like the shared areas, you and your other 3 roommates are responsible for it. So make sure in your roommate agreement, you guys all say, I'm not responsible if Mary brings her boyfriend over and Mary's boyfriend breaks the sink. You need to say that, or else the residents will take it out of your deposit, saying that there's no viable evidence saying that you guys, all 3 of you or all 4 of you or all 5 of you, however many are in the room, aren't liable for the damages to the house. You guys need to make sure you guys are aware of who's bringing who, and if there is any damages, that whoever brought the visitor is responsible for them. Your residence deposit only comes back at the end of the year, so they will deduct any damages that were done to the room at the end of this year, which is in April. So if you break something in October and you don't get residents to fix it, and you fix it yourself, residents will charge you for fixing the damages yourself. So don't fix anything because you will still get charged for it if you do fix it yourself. If it's something like plumbing, like clogging your toilet, that is a free fix. Maintenance can fix it. If it's something that replacing an item or having to get a new part for something, that's when things actually start deducting from your deposit fee. So don't be scared to call maintenance if like your light goes out because it's blown a fuse, or the door on your bathroom is coming off the hinges. That's just something that easily can be fixed with like a change of a light bulb or just screwing it in. So those things, please feel free to ask maintenance. Maintenance should be on call 24/7, and there is also an emergency line. So if your toilet does end up overflowing for whatever reason, maintenance will be able to fix that as fast as they possibly can. Another thing is your student ID card. It's not free, you do pay for it, and every time you lose it, you do have to pay to get another one. So don't lose it, and you can't take a picture of it either because it is what you also use for your exams. Some schools will allow you to use your own personal ID, like your driver's license or your Ontario card. Some will say you have to use your student ID card. So please do not lose it, or else you will have to pay a fine for it, as well as your keys. Your keys are only one set of keys for you and your roommate. The residence only has one master key, and that is only to your front door of your house. We do not have it to your bedroom. So if you lose your bedroom key, you will have to pay for a new lock and a new set of keys for your bedroom. So do not lose your keys. Same thing with your fob. If you lose your fob, which is like a little ID that you scan at the front door, you do have to pay for it, so don't lose that at all. I know for a whole set of keys, ID, and a fob at my school, it's like $100 your first time, $150 your second time, and then $300 if you lose your set of keys, ID for a third time. So please do not lose your IDs or any of your keys. For your picture for your ID card, it has the same picture from your first year till you graduate, unless you change it, unless you go in and physically take a new picture. So please choose a good picture, because that is the picture you'll be showing for every exam and for every assignment and for any in-test things you have for your class, like any in-class tests, quizzes, assignments, exams. That's the idea you will be using. So if you want to look good, take a good picture, get dolled up one day, take a picture of yourself. That's going to be with you for the rest of your university years. To change it, it is free your first time to change your photo and your ID card. Every time after that is $25, as it is reprinting a new picture for your ID every time. Textbooks. A lot of people have different opinions on textbooks. For me, if I know I'm not going to use a textbook and I know I have somebody in my class that is willing to share textbooks with me, I will not buy a textbook. For your first year of university, I will always go to my first year class. That first class, I know no one says go to your first week of classes. I say go. Go, because if you want to know what textbooks to buy, you should go your first week. Because after that first week, teachers are going to start moving on with the lecture. Do you have a textbook or not? And if you start sending out like assignments and homework after that first week, you're not going to have a textbook. So go your first week and ask the teacher, hey, can I buy an older edition? Can I buy a third edition? Can I buy a different edition of a textbook? If he says yes, that's great. Buy a used textbook for somebody in their upper years. Most upper year students will sell their textbooks for way cheaper than you will get at the campus library or the campus store. The campus library will rent you will rent you books for the year. But if you damage it, you will have to pay a fine for it. You can rent textbooks from the campus bookstore as well. Those ones are a little bit more expensive than the library and more expensive than students renting out their own textbooks from older students. But I find it's just cheaper to buy them from fifth-year students that have held on to their textbooks for way too long. For example, I still have my textbooks from like my first and my second years, and I will just give it to anybody that needs it at this point. I just don't need it collecting dust. So always ask around if anybody's selling them. Most students will sell it on Facebook Marketplace. So when you go up to your area, look for a Facebook Marketplace and look for what textbooks are selling. Most of your students will say, if you're taking Mr. McConaughey's class, you will need this book. And they'll give it to you for like half price. And they'll probably give you some really good tidbits on like what his classes are like and what his teaching style and marking scheme is. Oh yeah, as well as look for online PDF version. That's also really a good idea. Another thing is societies, like there's mostly a society for everything, like a geology society, biology society, nursing, philanthropy, like there's a society for everything. They will also have textbooks to sell if you need a textbook. Also, if you just want to connect with them for like study tips or old notes just to refer back to, they will also be great for that as well. Another thing is jobs. So if you have applied for OSAP, if you want to get a job on campus, please know that you getting a job will affect your OSAP standing. OSAP basically calculates how much your parents' income are and how much your income is going to be. If you say you're not going to be making nothing the whole entire semester and then you start having a job, OSAP will see you have a job and they will reject your OSAP that they previously gave your school. They will take it back and then recalculate it. By the time they recalculate, your school will notice that you will have not paid for your first semester or you're missing a portion of your payment. And they will now say you're on academic probation or financial probation because they have not received your payment in full. So if you're wanting or interested in getting a job, just know that your OSAP will be affected if you do get a job and you have claimed originally that you were not going to work. Also, when you first look at your OSAP, it will say that you're going to get like $10,000, which is great. But you have to look at the breakdown because it may say you may get $6,000 your first semester and then $4,000 your next semester. That means if your tuition your first semester is $10,000 your first semester and you're only getting paid that $6,000, you will need to come up with the extra $4,000 for the end of the year, which is like April. Just keep that in mind. Does anybody have any other questions about anything I've said so far? Is it advisable to get a job as a student? That depends on your financial need. For me as a student, I did a lot of volunteer work my first year and I didn't need to have an actual job because my parents supported me that way. But if you feel like you are not going to have that financial support, I will suggest you get a job. If it's not going to hurt your OSAP as much as you think it might, most schools will have a food bank. So you always go to your food bank. You are able to go to your food bank. So always go to that if you think you might need some extra groceries just to cut back on spending.
I'm a can. The Maracani must have me watch it.
Does anybody have any other questions? Raquel, do you have any questions?
I heard for Canada that they don't give out scholarships to international students very often, or don't give out big scholarships like that. Is that true?
Depends on the school. Some schools may, some schools don't. My school specifically, we do give out scholarships for international students. We don't specifically say it's strictly for Canadian students. We just say whoever wants to apply can apply. We do have designated international student scholarship bursaries and awards, but most times we will calculate your GPA average for regular scholarships for like free tuition and free textbooks and stuff. That's just based solely on your GPA. That has nothing to do if you're an international student or not. But that's at my school. I can't speak on other schools. But if most schools have like a GPA scholarship, that shouldn't matter if you're an international student or not. And you will see the deduction come off of your tuition if you have received a scholarship, bursary, or award on your school hub page from your financial area. So if you got like an extra $1,000 taken off because you won a GPA of like 4.0 in your grade 12 year, you'll go to your financial page whenever you feel like it during the start of your school year, which is like September. So let's say random day, September 13th, you'll go in your financial area. You will see that there's an deduction of $1,000 for your tuition, and that's just your awards and bursaries. Other things, it shouldn't really matter because you're still coming in as a student. So you are still eligible to apply for things like historical scholarship if you're interested in history, or if you recognize yourself as a minority, you should still be able to apply for like those type of scholarships. But yeah, it definitely depends on like the schools. Hope that answers your question. Does anyone else have any questions? My pleasure. Okay, so last thing is you guys need to take a break. As students, you guys are going to be so overwhelmed with your first year or whatever year you're in. You're going to be overwhelmed. And I say take a break, whether that's watching Netflix, going to the spa, going to the movies, going swimming, going hiking, going shopping, anything that you can do to relax yourself, take it. At least have one day a week for you to just de-stress and just figure out what your next step is in life, what your next step is for the week, what your next step is for the end of the month. Set some goals. And if you reach those goals by the end of like your relaxed day, celebrate it. Because 1 week of university is really hard. 1 week of college is really hard. Demure, you raised your hand. Come on in, join the chat.
I'm not sure if it happens at your school or Graydon's school, but at York we have reading week as well. So reading week is basically an opportunity for you to get that break. So it's basically an entire week of no school. Every term there's a reading week. So that is also an opportunity for you to get, much needed break and to catch up on the different concepts. So yeah, that's a plus.
Yeah, that is a plus. Most universities all have the reading week at the same time. So if you are in university, it is the first week before Thanksgiving. No, it's the first week before March break in the January to April cycle, and it's the week of Thanksgiving in your September to December cycle. Yes, Graydon, join the conversation.
I would say, I'm not sure, it's obviously not universal to every campus, but at University of Guelph, they actually did mental health projects like throughout the year. I believe they brought in puppies actually for like a week.
Therapy dogs, yeah.
Yeah, they just like I didn't personally go because I'm a little bit allergic, but I had some roommates who went and they loved it.
Yeah, some schools do have therapy dogs that are initiated by the Red Cross. I know that's my school. We have the Red Cross come and they bring their therapy dogs. We have them come every Thursday. We also, at my school, we have the Bell Let's Talk that come by every once in a while that just hands us like free massage coupons. So each school does have their own way in trying to help students relax and de-stress and help with their mental health status. But as I said earlier, most schools will have therapy. You do have, I think, a week's worth of free therapy sessions with a registered therapist. So if you do miss like your mom, your dad, your dogs, they are there for you. And if you do need more, or they would say, come back for like another month and we'll talk about, you ending your therapy session with us, that is also covered under your health insurance. If you guys have health insurance with your parents and you like to stay on your parents' plan, please opt out of the health insurance for your school. Your school automatically give you a health insurance plan that covers your school. So if you wanted to go to the doctor's office at your school, the clinic, that's what the health insurance covers. If you don't need it, opt out of it because it does save you quite a couple $100s if you do opt out of the health plan. But if you are far away from your parents and you are not on your parents' health insurance, I would say to stay on it because it does cover some of the prescriptions. It does cover like eye doctors, dentists, stuff like a regular health plan would cover. Also, if you know you're not going to do orientation week or frosh, opt out of that as well because that does cost you some money as well. If you're not going to use the food bank, opt out of that. So they will say, they will write down your name saying that the student opted out of the food bank. So if you do go to the food bank, they'll say, you can't really use the food bank here, but you are free to use the food bank down the street that you did not opt out of, because food banks are mostly donation wise and are funded by the school or the student union. And if you do opt out of paying the student union fees, you can't use the food bank. What else is there? Any other questions regarding anything I've said so far or anything we've said so far? No? Okay, does anyone have any concerns? Any parents on here that have any concerns about like their daughters or their sons coming into their first year away from home at their college or university? yes, Alethea, join the conversation.
Thanks for my question, Amoy. From a safety perspective, in that first year, I know there's always talk about lots of parties and lots of drinking and experimenting going on. What kind of safety measures are in place for the students?
Okay, so I'm gonna start off by saying, if we're going to university and college, the school upholds you at the age of majority, which is 18. So you legally know what you shouldn't and shouldn't be doing. If you are going to drink, you should know that you are or are not allowed to drink. If something were to happen to you while you are under the influence, that is 110% on you. You cannot call your mom, you cannot call your dad. You're 110% responsible for whatever you do. If you do have, God forbid, an alcohol overdose, you are under the age of 18, you will be sent to the hospital, which is a $45 ambulance fee, which you will have to pay. Your parents will be called, they'll be woken up from their peaceful slumber, and they will have to drive to the hospital where they will have to release you. And where, if you are under the age of 18, it is legally required that the doctors do tell your parents why you are in the hospital. So we please say, do not drink if you cannot drink. If you're going to drink, drink responsibly. Likewise, if you're going to do any sort of substance, which I do not encourage, please do it responsibly, because you do not know what you're taking. You do not know where you are sometimes. Please do it in a safe environment. Some schools will say, please party only on campus. My school specifically says, only party on campus. On campus, we have 24/7 security. We have everybody who works in the residence on staff has Narcan on them. They have 2 Narcans consistently on them throughout the whole entire day. If you overdose, there's 2 Dons that are able to get to you immediately within 5 minutes to administer a Narcan. If you have too much alcohol in your system, they can probably perform a procedure where they can help you expel some of that alcohol in your body. We say safety is first. You need to do it on campus in a safe environment. There is a hospital 5 minutes from my university. We always have great response times. Safety on campus, we do have a night walk program. So if your class finishes late at 8 p.m., we have upper year students that are vetted, have been police checked, and have been gone through a interview process that will walk you to and from your residence at night, that will walk you to and from your car at night if you do not feel safe. We do have police escorts. If you do not feel safe walking with an upper year student, you can ask security or police to walk you to and from your house, to and from your car. We also have buses that will wait for you outside if you call them. We do have a call system at my university where you can call a bus to come pick you up if you are a little bit more out of the way than walking distance and you do not have a car. Other security things we do have at my school specifically, and maybe at other universities, that they are security poles situated around campus. If you ever feel unsafe for whatever reason, you can press the button on the security pole, or there's an app that some universities have. It's called like a MySafe app, where if you allow your location on the app, if you press the security button on the app will send out your location to security and they'll come to your exact GPS location. So we do have a lot of fail safes in place, just in case something happens. You do have a lot of options if you do feel unsafe in whatever area you are in. If you feel like you're more safe talking to a female officer than a male officer, if you want a female companion to walk you to your destination, we do have females and males. We do have female security and male security at most universities and colleges. So you do have that option to have, I want a girl to walk me to my car because you feel more safe with the girl. You always have those options. Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much. It does. I'd love to hear Graydon's comment. I know he's at University of Guelph, and then just the different experiences at the different universities, because they're all geographically located differently in different locations. So Graydon and then Damore.
I guess I'll go first. As far as parties on campus, as I said before, I'm a bit of an introvert, so I never really went to a lot of them. I just know that at the University of Guelph specifically, they discouraged parties on campus due to the whole COVID situation. So I'm not exactly sure if that was going to change moving forward. But I do know that we have a safe walk established, which is effectively a program run primarily by the student council on campus, where you can call for somebody to come up and walk you home. I think that's the biggest safety measure, as well as the Griff Safe app, which is just the same as Moy was talking about, just a safety feature on your phone that you can press and it contacts help services to come to your location. Other than that, there's not much I know about, so I'll hand it over to Demar.
Well, I know little, like Graydon, about the different parties on campus and so on. But what I do know is that different groups will have different events. For example, student council will have their student led events. So different sectors of the school population will plan and execute their events. In terms of security and so on, York, I know that York tends to send out a lot of bulletins. So whether there is a robbery on campus or close to campus, York sends out a bulletin immediately. So you are essentially aware of all that's happening in your surroundings so that you're better able to plan ahead. So you just need to be alert and constantly check your emails so that you're up to date. Yeah, so that's it is essentially. And there's also on-campus security as well, because York has a huge campus. If you've ever been there, then you might attest to being lost many times. So yeah, we do have security personnel at York as well. So yeah, that's it from my end. Also, Alethia, I believe Deputy Mayor Anderson had his hand raised.
Okay, so Steve, do you want to say a question for us?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Some of it you've answered, Amoy and Graydon and Demore as well, regarding the campus safe walk. When I attended the University of Windsor way back when, I actually volunteered to be one of those individuals. And so knowing that that's out there, I'm glad you shared that information, because certainly a lot of parents are anxious and nervous. I remember when you were going off to university, someone was quite nervous and anxious. So it's good to hear these things that are in place, especially when you have a daughter that's going away. And you've touched on a few things, all of you have, with respect to safety, paying attention to alerts. And I may have missed this, but I'm wondering if you could touch on, for those nervous fathers and mothers that their daughters are going away and they're concerned about these drinking things that are happening. A lot of women's drinks, young ladies' drinks are being tampered with when they go out. Are there tips or suggestions, because everybody likes a good party? I think for parents to believe that their children are not going to be attending parties, maybe with the exception of Graydon, but you know, it's probably unrealistic, right? And so what are some tips specifically for young women when they're going out to these functions that they could do to protect themselves?
For me, my biggest thing is, if you put an ice cube in your drink and it does not float, do not drink it. Don't drink it. If your drink has a weird smell, do not drink it. If you take a sip of your drink and it does not taste right, if you are uncomfortable to continue drinking your drink, do not drink it. If you leave your drink unattended, do not drink it. If you give your drink to a male that you do not know, but you saw him last week at another party and you thought he was really, really cool, do not drink it. It is not worth it. It is not worth that feeling in your gut knowing that something went wrong and you are not okay. It is not worth it. Always come with a buddy. One buddy has to be sober, at least semi-sober, to get you guys home. If you are at a different location than your residence, you need to plan how you're getting home, what time you plan to leave. If you live down the street, around the corner, that's like a 20-minute walk, you need to have Uber or skip the dishes, or you ride, not skip the dishes, but Lyft or whatever the other rideshare apps are. You need to have a way home. You are not walking home at night. That is The worst idea ever. I live in the middle of nowhere in the coldest place in Ontario, not really, but we have bears where I go to school. You do not want to be walking home in the middle of the night and see a bear. It's not fun. You do not want to be walking home in the middle of Toronto and see some guys parked up on the wall. It's not a good thing. I'd rather you guys get Uber, get Lyft, get some type of ride share to get you guys home. That's way better than you walking home and getting catcalled for just going to a party and having a fun night with your girls. It's not worth it. Leave also at a reasonable time. If everybody's gonna take a U-Ride home or a Lyft home at 1 o'clock in the morning or a taxi at 1 o'clock in the morning, you're not getting home anytime soon because everybody is gonna be calling one of those. You need to plan ahead so you actually get a ride home on time and you're in bed. Also, know your limit. If you know your limit is 2 drinks, don't drink more than that. If someone offers you a drink, oh yeah, just take a sip. Don't do it. You know you're gonna regret it the next day. It's not worth it. Another safety measure would be, this is a hard one. If you know yourself, you'll know not to befriend everybody. Because if you go to a party and you start befriending everybody, everybody's gonna try and give you a drink. Everybody's gonna try and give you a little something. No, have your friends, make 1, 2 more friends, and that's fine. You don't have to be friends with everybody because everybody's gonna wanna be on your good side. Everyone's gonna try and give you drinks. Just come with your friends, enjoy the day with your friends, play whatever, I don't know, tic-tac-toe, but don't do drinking games. Drinking games are not fun. I would not suggest you to do drinking games unless you're in your own home and you are legal age to drink. Don't do drinking games because drinking games do force you to drink more than your limit, especially King's Cup. If anybody says, oh, let's play King's Cup, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it because you do not know whose drink someone else is drinking. You don't know what's in their drink. You don't know if they put something in their drink after the fact, knowing that you're gonna play a big drinking game. No, it's not worth it. Don't play drinking games at parties unless you know it's just you can be you and your friends at this party. No one else, just a get together with the girls, that's fine. But if you're going to some random guy's house, some random guy's sorority, don't play drinking games. Know how you're getting home. Have enough money to pay for a taxi. I know taxis are a lot more expensive than a Lyft or an Uber. Always have enough money in cash to pay for a taxi. Most schools will have an ATM, or most of your residents will also have an ATM. Take out money before you go for emergency purposes, just in case you have to take a taxi. There are thousands of taxis in Toronto. There's thousands of taxis wherever you go. Always have enough money for a taxi, just in case the Lyft doesn't work, just in case a U-Ride doesn't work, just in case a Uber doesn't work. Always have enough money to get you from point A to point B. And if your friend is looking a little bit too intoxicated, it's time to go home. Even if you are having a good time, if your friend is too drunk, be that good friend and say, that's enough, it's time to go home. Because as soon as you lose sight of that one intoxicated friend, you may never see her until the next day. And you do not know what's gonna happen from the day you last saw her or the time you last saw her till the time you see her again. No, always be together, never leave each other's side. Never drink anything that you don't know where it's been, what it is. If the ice doesn't float, don't drink it. And always leave when you know it's time to go. I think that would be like my go-to for girls going to a party.
And you know, even as a male, my mom would always tell me, I don't even know why she told me this because I didn't drink in front of her, but she was always like, Steve, never leave your drink unattended. And I think another thing I would add to that is if for whatever reason you are leaving, whether you're going out alone for whatever reason, or you're leaving the club with somebody, always make sure that somebody has your number, maybe has the name of the person that you're leaving with. And so there is a follow-up if necessary. But I want to ask these questions, or this particular question, to Demore and Graydon from a male's perspective. And this may have been addressed earlier. I apologize, I came on late, but so if it has been, just stop me and we'll move on. But when I was in university, with my friends playing video games. That hasn't changed. A lot of young men are still playing video games today. But there was sometimes pressure, like guys would be smoking weed in particular. And they'd be like, yo, Steve, come on, just take a drag. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Oh, you punk, this and that, come on. And so there was that pressure to do that. And so what I would do is I would just get up and I would get my books and I'd go over to the university center. Whether or not you guys have faced that pressure, but what would be your advice to young men that are going there, it could be a number of different pressures. You're independent, you're by yourself. You have a campus like York that is, yes, has a lot of, I'll say people, including young women. And there are these other distractions. I'm not saying that women are distraction, but I'm talking about the drug aspect that is there as well. What would you suggest, especially as a young male, first time on campus, bright-eyed with all these things that are out there? What would you suggest that they pay attention to, not to be taken off course?
I think that it's almost inevitable to not have friends who will smoke and so on. I know that some persons might be thinking that's bad company and so on, but that's not necessarily the case. What you will find in university is that there are literally persons from all over the world, from different backgrounds, you know, and different persons have different beliefs. So I think that it all boils down to knowing your limits again. I know that Amoy touched on that a lot, especially as it relates to drinking and so on, but knowing that limit otherwise, you know, in terms of your integrity too, you know, what works for you and what doesn't. I think, yeah, it boils down to knowing your limits. Yeah.
I would say on this topic, the best advice I got was from my godfather, actually, who visited me recently. And it's the fact that these years are there to build the rest of your life. So these are the ones where you need to put the visors on, stay focused, look forward ahead. Just, it's best that you get the next few years of your life. I'm not gonna say right because that can be hard, but to do it the best that you know how to do. Because that's going to be very important when you achieve what you achieve in the future. Knowing that you put in the work now is very good. It's this has to be a better word than good. It is essential for knowing that where you get in the future is where you put there through your hard efforts, and that you've made the correct decisions in getting there.
Well said, Damore, Graydon, and Amoy. Amoy, did you want to jump in and take over?
I was going to add to that. Boundaries is a big thing. I would also say have boundaries for your friend. Know that, hey, like I need to study from this time to this time. Please don't call me talking about like your best friend's boyfriend broke up with his like, if I have to study, please don't bring me drama that Snow is going to distract me. I need to have my boundaries, especially boundaries when it comes to school, boundaries when it comes to family, when it comes to studying, just when it comes to anything. Make sure you have some really nice, strong foundations for your boundaries, just so you don't start wavering between things, contemplating things that you would never have contemplated before. Be sure in what you want as a student, where you want to go in life. And even if you want to take some detours to get there, as long as you have your boundaries and what you know you're not comfortable with doing, don't sacrifice those boundaries for anybody. Don't sacrifice those boundaries for your friends. Don't sacrifice those boundaries for your family. It's not worth it. If you know in your heart that it's not something you want to do, don't cross those boundaries. It's not worth it.
Great comment, great session, everyone. Any other questions? I know we have one or two parents on the line. Any other questions from the parents before we wrap up?
I do. I have a question for the panel.
Go ahead.
Great. I just wanted to say great job, guys. I'm so proud of you all. As a uber concerned parent, I just want to bring up the elephant in the room. As students of color from a Caribbean background, can you share with us any tips or experiences that you've had where you've had to consciously respond or adjust to a situation where you realize that it was racialized in some way? And how did you go about that? And are there any advice you give to your audience?
I can start that. I had a very interesting first year with my English professor. he was very old school in the sense that he believed that females belonged in the kitchen and Caribbean people aren't as intellectual as we are. And I found his comments very offensive, very rude. And I hated how he wanted to discuss these topics in a class that was majority not Caucasian. And I was like, why would you bring up these topics if you know that this is something that is not with the school's code of conduct? So I privately emailed him and I addressed it and I said, hey, like whatever you were talking about in class yesterday, do not bring it up. That made me and it made several of our other classmates very uncomfortable. And I don't think that was a correct way to go about bringing up a topic of discussion. Don't do that. He responded to me in a not so nice way, saying that this was an educational platform and that he should be able to express whatever he feels like to his class. I then further took screenshots of our emails and I went to the dean of his faculty, and I brought it to her and I said, hey, this is what happened in class. I feel like this does not go with our code of conduct as teachers and as humans. Like that's not something you should be talking to kids that are just fresh into university, into college. That's not something you would say to another adult. That's not something you would say to somebody treating you. Like, that's just not right. So I went to her, we wrote up a draft of what happened. So I gave her a recollection of my testimony. We went over what happened. We got names of students that also felt uncomfortable. And then she went to the rest of the board. She discussed the contract of the teacher with the rest of the board. And then it was concluded that he would no longer be working with the school because of his unright thoughts of his opinion towards certain genders and ethnicities. And so he was no longer allowed to work with the school. And I thought that for me, that was like a great thing. That's something that I was able to do as a female student, as a person of color, just so I can make way for the younger students. Like, they needed to have somebody there to pioneer for them, just so they have like, just so that they know that if you want to make a difference, you can do it. It's not impossible. Like, in my first year, I randomly said, no, this is not for me. This is not going to stand. This is not what's going to stand in my classroom. I'm not going to take it. And if there's no other class that I can take that can fulfill this requirement, I decide that I need a new teacher. If no one else in the classroom likes this teacher and is putting us all in an uncomfortable situation, I'm going to take it to the dean if I can't talk to you about it. Because if my point's not getting across to you, then I have to go to someone higher than you. I'm sorry if that offends you as a teacher, but you're not going to disrespect me and my culture and my other females in the classroom just for your own opinion. I'm sorry, it's not happening. So that's what I did. I escalated it to the dean and he eventually got fired. Yeah.
Well, first of all, before I turn it over to Graydon and Damore, I have to commend you, Amor, for your leadership in advocating for not just yourself, but the rest of your students and those to come after. So it's a great lesson in having courage and standing up for your beliefs and standing up for your rights. So thank you for sharing that with us. Graydon, I'm going to turn to you next, and then Damore, if you can comment, please.
Let's see. First thing I'm going to say is that a lot of campuses do have communities and clubs on campus for connecting with other people of color. It's good there to always know that you're not, even if it might not look like it, you're not alone. But I would say that even if you walk into a lecture and you're the only one of yourself that looks like you there, even if it might feel, you might get a sense of imposter syndrome, or you might be overly anxious, don't be. Know that this is not something you did wrong, it's something you're doing right. You're taking a step in the right direction so that more people who look like you can be there.
Excellent. Thank you. Damore?
Well, I had somewhat of an uncomfortable encounter during my first year. I wouldn't say that racism was hurled at me per se, but I had this tutorial, and we were discussing racialized criminalization, and I felt extremely uncomfortable sitting in that tutorial, discussing Black men being criminalized in Canada based on their race and so on. And that was when it really hit me that it's one thing to talk about race back in Jamaica, surrounded by people who look the same like you, and talking about race overseas in a classroom with students from literally all over the world, right? And I remember feeling as though persons wanted me to participate in the discussion because I was Black. And I really had no perspective in the moment, because I also discovered that I really knew nothing about racism. Like I know of racism, I know of the concept, but I've never really experienced it, because what, I'm coming from a country where we all look the same. So I had to sit in that classroom in that moment and just listen to the different perspective. And yes, I'm Black, but really and truly, I've never really had the experience. Hopefully I'm making sense. So yeah, that was an interesting revelation to me. So what I'd say to answer the question is to not participate if you're not comfortable participating. It's that simple. If you're not comfortable having the discussion, if you're not comfortable participating, just don't participate. Don't have the discussion.
Amazing, amazing. I don't know what else to say. You all three of you have responded to the question so well. There's nothing more that I can add other than simply thank you for sharing. Pulvir, did you have any other comments? And then I'll see if anyone else has any other questions.
No, that was an amazing, very articulate response from all three panelists. Thank you. Well done, guys.
Amazing, thank you. Are there any other questions from any of the other students or parents in the chat before we do our closing comments?
Just a quick one. And again, if this was addressed, we could stop it. One of the things I found very helpful when I was on campus, we talked a lot about safety, but there were also finances that obviously played a large role in one's ability to continue once they get there. You know, it's a big milestone to have the first one for my family to get into university. It's another thing to stay there. And one of the things that may prohibit one from staying there is finances. And I don't think many of us young people that go in have a full appreciation of the day-to-day things that they were responsible for when it comes to money, whether it's, you know, food or you know, buying bounce, to put into the dryer to, you know, to freshen up your clothes, or fabric softener and all these other things that cost money. Are there, if you could share with us, for me, when I went to school, I was always combing and looking for bursaries. If there was any bursary that was out there, I was applying for it. And thank God I was able to get a few, and that helped. Are there tips that you guys have when it comes to searching for those kinds of bursaries? First of all, are they still out there? And if they are, what would you encourage young students to do if finances is an issue for them?
I'm going to put Graydon on the spot.
Sometimes OSAP is not enough, right? So sure.
Yeah, I'm going to put Graydon on the spot. And again, not to respond in a way that is because you need it, but you know, university is expensive, so any little bit of money does help. So if you have comments, please feel free to share. And I'm going to start with you, Graydon, then Demore, and then Amoy.
I would say, yes, they're still out there. The biggest issue might be applying to them. In which case, my biggest tip would be to make a template, or at least a sample of like a breakdown of who you are, what you stand for, what you've done. It doesn't have to be like the super most amazing thing. You have to be the super stellar. Just explain if you're to explain to yourself who you are in the most professional manner that you can, just make that. That should be your first step. Because then when you come across one, all you have to do is tweak a few things about what they're specifically asking, throw in experiences that apply to that specific one, and then you have your application. Overthinking it, I've found, is the thing that leads to just a lot of like less motivation, because you've like, I have to write a 1,000-word thing for this and this and this, and that's too much. Like even in university, you don't have to write that many things. So just like making sure you have a set sample or copy to work with as you're applying is the best tip I can give to anyone when applying to scholarships and bursaries.
Perfect, thank you.
I would say networking. I think that networking is so very crucial in being aware of those opportunities that are there, especially when you're not from the country. Connecting with other international students, connecting with domestic students, and with your different organizations that you might be a part of. For example, here, I joined the Canadian, Jamaica Canadian Association. Well, I'm a part of one of their groups. So information is given out on a daily basis in terms of opportunities and so on. So essentially tapping into those resources, networking, and also, and finally, familiarizing yourself with the opportunities that are there. Some of these universities have numerous opportunities in terms of, gaining those scholarships and bursaries. For example, York University has what is called the Student Financial Profile. So it's basically this profile that you fill out every semester, and you basically get free money just by filling out the profile. And just today, I was doing that. So again, being familiar with what is there, being in the know, asking questions, going on your college website and doing your research, then you would be better equipped to seizing those opportunities.
Great tips. I didn't know about the student profile, so thank you for sharing that. Amoy.
For my school, we do have the food bank that is open from Monday to Friday from 8 to 8, and then on Saturdays and Sundays from 8 to 6. In our food bank, we usually have like the non-perishable foods, but if you are looking for like fruits and vegetables, my food bank does give out $25 gift cards to No Frills, where you can buy your Kohl's items or your fruits and veggies. My school also does get reimbursements on your textbook. So each textbook you fill out an individual reimbursement form, and you can get $100 back on each textbook that you do apply for reimbursement with. When it comes to like transportation to get to a grocery store, my school does offer free transportation to the grocery store as No Frills. We also do send out emails of the flyers to our students in each residence, just in case they want to look at some deals. That's what we do. And then we do have this thing called, not really called anything, but like if you have any like excess items of like boxes of macaroni or excess like tuna, we have like a bargaining thing where we can bargain like, hey, I'll trade you like my box of macaroni for like your can of tuna. And we have that network on like Facebook Marketplace. So it's like kind of like bargaining and selling your stuff that you're not going to use or you're not going to eat. And that's what we do. For me, like I specifically don't like bananas. And if I know my roommates are not going to finish their bananas, but my roommate across the street loves bananas and she's willing to give me some of her apples for bananas, I'll ask my roommate to borrow a banana and I'll exchange it for an apple and I'll have an apple instead. So like there are some like cool, neat tricks that each university has that are unique to like their universities. You just have to find them. Most universities do have like their scholarship awards and bursaries on their actual page. But if you ever concerned about where you can get free money, you can go to the financial office and they can literally point to you which ones you'd be eligible for and which ones haven't been applied for. For most universities, I know that, well, at least for my universities, most students don't even apply for a lot of the scholarships. So I would always say, please actually apply for those scholarships because most students don't get it. And if you're the only one that does apply for the scholarship, you might actually end up getting the full scholarship instead of it being split 3 ways with the other 2 other contestants with you. So always apply for the scholarships if you have a chance, apply for the awards and bursaries, look around the school and talk to the up years and see if they have like a bargaining situation at the dorms. See if you guys have a food bank and see if you can get it's called a reimbursement card for your textbooks to save up some money.
Just
amazing tips. If I can just chime in before you comment, Deputy Mayor Anderson. So another great tip is just to connect with your teachers, your profs. They may be a great resource to, share, opportunities for scholarships. And I love the different strategies that each of you shared. Graydon, you touched on knowing yourself and being able to talk about yourself and having, your essay, your profile ready to submit once you find that scholarship. The more, when I was going to university, I had no idea that a student profile could, get you funding. Amoy, the tips and tricks that you shared was absolutely absolutely fantastic. So all amazing tips that you can walk away with and implement, the first day that you go on campus. One of the other things that Damore touched on is community organizations, the JCA. Right here in Dufferin County, you have the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association that offers scholarship opportunities to students. So we offer this program every single year. So I encourage you next year in the January timeframe to check out our website and see what opportunities are available and make sure that you apply. Because again, like Amoy said, if we don't have a lot of students applying, then oftentimes what happens is these scholarships, are going to one or two students because the sheer number isn't there. And it's not just with DCCB, I'm talking about just scholarships in general. There are so many amazing organizations out there that are offering scholarships and scholarships geared towards our Black youth. So just scour the website, check DCCBA's website. If we have different opportunities that we are aware of, we will share that as well with you to make sure that you have all of the financial tools to succeed. So I'll pause. I see you nodding your head, Deputy Mayor Anderson, chime in.
No, I'm nodding my head because all of what you're saying is all legit, right? But just on that point about the scholarships, and as Amoy pointed out, there might be people who overlook these scholarships. They're just sitting there languishing, even worse yet. But that's the reason why I think Damore made the point that he made, which is get in the know. Knowledge is power. And once you get to know how certain things work, then you're able to take advantage of these opportunities that are there. It's when you're not in the know. I don't know that DCCBA is out there. I don't know that if I fill up my profile, if I'm at York, I'm entitled to, not entitled to, but I could avail myself to funding. Then you miss out on these opportunities. And that's the same in life. You have to be in the know. You have to inform yourself. And if you have limitations with respect to your knowledge base, then associate yourself with those who have the knowledge so that you could take advantage of that. But I just want to say in closing for me that the reason why I asked the question with the finances, because the struggle is absolutely real. When I was in university, the last thing I wanted to do, and I got OSAP, and I thought OSAP would cover everything. But after I covered my rent and my books, I had little cash left over. And it was my roommate that saw my situation. I didn't tell her about it, but she observed. And I remember one time we shared a locker because I couldn't even afford a locker. We shared a locker, and when I came into the locker one morning, I saw that she put canned goods there for me to be able to access. And so sometimes as young people, we don't want to trouble our parents. And I apologize with the ringing in the background. And so we try to be resourceful because we don't want them to worry. But that's why I wanted to ask the question with respect to the scholarships, because I want students to be aware when they go there that they don't have to maybe suffer in silence and that there are other opportunities that are there for them to take advantage of. Thank you.
Amazing. I know the session was supposed to be 1 hour. We're now almost at the 2-hour mark. I want to give our amazing panelists a few moments just to share any closing comments that they may have. And then we'll do the formal wrap up. So I'm going to start with, who am I going to pick on? I'm going to start with Damore. Any closing comments, and then Graydon, and then Amoy.
So my closing comment is something that someone told me. So someone told me to be a sponge. So essentially what the person was saying is to soak up every opportunity, to seize every opportunity, to get yourself involved, be involved. So be a sponge. That's my suggestion.
I love it. Graydon.
I would say for a final tip, it would be, it goes along with being in the know, but there are usually a bunch of student-run communities online through social media like Discord, Reddit, Snapchat, Microsoft Teams. They're like just communities where you can talk to other students about student things, and that I found has been super helpful for like just sometimes remembering when an assignment is due or when an event is happening. Like the community is there to help you always.
Amazing. I love that. Amoy?
One of my professors told me this, shoot for the stars, and even if you land on the moon, enjoy the view. So that means even if you have your goal of being a doctor, a nurse, a scientist, an astronaut, it's okay to make a detour and just of like just take in the view, like acknowledge everything that you've done so far and be happy with it, because you're still making your way there, and it's okay to take detours. It's okay to take a pause in your life just to appreciate all you've done and then continue on your way. If you don't acknowledge all the success you've had and all the progress you've made, even if it's little progress, you're not going to fully understand how big of a change you're making in your life. So shoot for the stars, and even if you land on the moon, enjoy the view.
Wow. I feel like I need like the party horn, because I am so inspired after listening to all three of you panelists. I'm blown away by the passion, the depth of knowledge. You know, I titled the session, you know, tips and strategies to succeed in university, and all three of you have delivered more than I expected. So kudos to each and every one of you. A job well done. I'm going to save my comments. I'm going to invite Stella to come on camera and, or even just to turn on her mic and just say a few words. Stella is one of our board members, and I know she was tuning in, listening, and soaking up all of the information. So Stella.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Stella.
Ooh.
Thank you so much.
Yes. I don't know where to start. I'm sitting here and listening to Amoy, Graydon, and Demore. We have a bright future. We have leaders in our community, and I'm so super excited. I listened to everything. I just wanted to soak in whatever they were saying, and I don't know. I'm lost for words on how much information they've given us. As a parent, I don't think I could have advised anybody going to the university for the first time like they did. You did awesome, guys. I'm so happy for you. I'm very happy. I have 2 university grads, and I wish when they were going to university, they had all this information that has been shared here. It's awesome, because sometimes I have to walk them back to their hostels because I'm insecure. Like, where are you? I'm in class, I'm about to leave. And then I will talk to them throughout until they get to their hostel. If you get equipped with this kind of information, I think all the participants here, I believe, are well equipped with the necessary information to succeed in their first year and then any number of years that they spend in the university. Thank you so much. Thank you to the organizers, DCCBA, Deputy Mayor, Steve. Awesome. I enjoyed all your comments. I wish more parents were in this session to know that their kids are well informed and they are ready for university. Thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Stella. And you know what? DCCBA alone can't take all of this credit. I have to give it to the youth leaders, because this was their idea. Yeah. They organized it. We were just the vehicle to organize this event. Kudos to Amoy, Damore, and Graydon for making this happen. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson to say a few closing comments.
Yeah, thank you. And I think Stella said it all, right? Just amazing to hear from you guys, and you can't say it enough. Knowledge is power, and you know, hopefully when this video is being circulated on YouTube, that young people and parents really take advantage of this opportunity. This is gold, right? Because if there are stumbling blocks that we could avoid, or we could make the journey easier, then you know, I would encourage all of those involved to take advantage of this. So thank you guys for coming on and organizing and wanting to do this to empower other youth. You know, as Stella said, the future is bright because we have individuals like yourselves. So I'm really proud of you guys as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And with that, I'm going to once again say thank you to Amoy for putting the bug in my ear to say, you know what, you've done all these great sessions. What about our youth? And taking the leadership step to reaching out and connecting with Damore and Graydon and organizing and making sure that this session took place. And not only for the session to take place, but making sure that it's well organized, it's well run, and making sure that we have some key questions and key topics that we're covering tonight. So this is, again, leadership at its best, or young people taking charge, or young people doing amazing things in our community. So I'm not going to talk about this anymore, because I think simply thank you says it all. You were absolutely amazing. I know it was uncomfortable to get out of your comfort zone, but hey, you did it. You delivered. Graydon, give yourself kudos, a pat on the back, because you were absolutely amazing. I know you talk about being an introvert, but tonight you delivered a power pack session. Damore, one thing that I will ask of you, if you have your study tips readily available, I would love to be able to share that with the network. So if you can share that with us, if it's not proprietary, I think that would be fantastic. And again, you're an amazing speaker. All three of you are amazing speakers. And so kudos to you for the job that you did tonight. I encourage you to continue speaking and elevating your platform, because you guys, listen, if I wish I had the skills that you have right now at your age. You guys were simply amazing. So I'm going to give you guys a round of applause. And for anyone else who's on the chat, please unmute and give these three panelists a round of applause, please. Let's get some virtual claps in. Amazing, 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 amazing. So with that, I'm going to close. Sorry, someone else is clapping?
She wants her own clap.
Oh, wonderful. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to stop recording, and I wish you all a very good night. And best of luck as you journey back into your final year, second year, into the new school year. Thank you.